Tihore mai te rangi, tihore mai. Mau 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 te hua whiti mai te rā. Tihore mai te rangi, tihore mai. Mau 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 te hua whiti mai te rā. This comes from one of our ancient karakia, and it simply suggests that if the clouds can part for a moment and the sunlight can shine on us all, and these clouds are clouds of uncertainty, distrust, doubt, rebellion that have gripped us all across the globe in these recent years. And so if these clouds can dispel for a moment, if we can put those thoughts aside, if we can listen to each other and open our hearts to each other. He wāturu atu ana te ngākau ki ranginui e tūnei ki paptua nuku e takoto nei, between heaven and earth as we who draw breath and represent the living, conscious of the institutions of our ancestors and the wisdom of the ancients, can listen to each other, then there is nothing we cannot overcome or restore. Nō reira, this is my greeting to you all from Aotearoa, New Zealand. This is my greeting to you all across the globe, to you who live in the shadow of the greatest mountains on the planet. Humbly, from these smaller mountains of mine, I acknowledge you, you who live beside the greatest rivers of the world that carry the memories of ancient wisdom and civilization. I acknowledge you as I stand next to my river, now the number 4 water outfall of Auckland City. Change has gripped us all. Let me talk about fashion. Fashion changed the landscape of my tribal area hundreds of years ago. Contest over a garment, a treasured garment that had become a priceless heirloom. And the contest for this changed our political landscape. And when I think about that and look at the world, I think about the Silk Road, travelled by Marco Polo, that bringing to the West the secrets of the East. And I consider that paper and gunpowder were just a byproduct of the fashion industry that was the foundation of the Silk Road. When I think of that, I think of the empire of cotton and how cotton changed the landscape of the world and brought on capitalism and the exploitation of the world. From the iron foundries of Bristol, traded for slaves in Africa, transported to plantations in the Americas, and then the wealth of that cotton shipped to Manchester. And in our supermarkets today it still says Manchester, and we know no cotton ever grew in Manchester. And so the birth of capitalism came from the advancement of fashion. And we cannot ignore these things. We cannot dismiss fashion as being insignificant, as being only what's visible, as being only adornment. Fashion lies at the foundations of our nations. Fashion lies at the foundations of our colonization by the English. Fashion became a tool of colonization. In my own country, we became attired and clothed in the costumes of our colonizer. Whatever we held of our traditions, we kept it subtle and perhaps innocuous, the simple. Pounamu, where before it might have been a tiki. The simple feather, unthreatening, our symbol of peace. Still a new thing. And when I first started wearing it 30 years ago, I was ridiculed in the street by groups of white boys. Somehow it had an effect on them, and they felt the need to ridicule, but it also had another effect. None of them would stand against me if I turned on them. Fashion, however subtle, is hugely important. And so I acknowledge this discussion, and when I talk about the cloud dispersing, we are connected by a cloud. Even though that cloud is really a whole lot of cables buried deep in our ocean, this cloud that connects us gives us a power if we can adapt to it, because it means we can connect and talk with each other across the oceans, across the boundaries of culture, disorder and conflict. Nō reira, this is my greeting to you all at the opening of this conversation of many voices. Nō reira, I'll finish my karakia. The last two verses relate to the worm, which I think remembers the silk and the bird. E re re e no ke mai topo korua, ke ki te wai ke mate i te hua. E re re ko tare ki runga puwhara, whara ruru pare hau, ke mate i te hua. E whiti mai te rā. E whiti mai te rā. Kia ora.